Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.
I'm Ian Richards. Welcome to InFocus, a weekly program where we zoom in on what's happening within and throughout the government, your government. The Ministry of Agriculture is celebrating a series of activities as the Federation joins the global community in celebrating World Food Day 2023. The theme for the international commemoration is Water is Life, Water is Food, Leave No One Behind. Today, Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Samal Duggins, and Communication Lead in the Ministry, Sheriff Flanders, are here to expound on how this theme complements the local agricultural development strategy and how government is working to enhance food security. We'll also explore how St. Kitts and Nevis will benefit from the widely reported recent engagements in Louisiana, USA. Stay with us as we delve into your government, your business. Thanks for staying with us. I am pleased to welcome back to InFocus the Honorable Samal Duggins and Sheriff Flanders, Lead Communication Specialist in the Ministry of Agriculture. Welcome back to both of you.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
Yeah. So we want to start off, as we discussed in the opening, World Food Day. It started back in 1979, but I want someone to explain to us, and Sheriff, we can probably start with you, in terms of the significance of World Food Day.
Now, obviously, World Food Day is a global celebration. And of course, this is the United Nations Food and Agriculture World Food Day. Food and Agriculture Organization, or as many of you would know, that's FAO. And of course, St. Kitts and Nevis is no different. We are joining the globe in celebrating World Food Day, and it gives us the opportunity to highlight, not just in the ministry, but to highlight the importance of food, food security, and of course, touching on the theme this year, which is water is life, water is food, leave no one behind. We want to make sure that our students in our schools, as well as our farmers, our fishers, and other agricultural stakeholders are very much involved, and we want them to participate in the week of activities that we are hosting this week in observation of World Food Day.
And why is it important for St. Kitts and Nevis to participate in this observance every year?
You want me to answer that, Ian? Or
Anyone can answer.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead again. So St. Kitts and Nevis, as you know by now, for those of you who don't know, we are actually on the path, we're forging forward to achieve the reduction in the food import bill. And we are seeking to meet CARICOM's 25 by 2025 agenda mandate, which means that we want to reduce the food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. It is extremely important for us now more than ever to highlight the importance of food security, because we need our stakeholders to understand that St. Kitts and Nevis is in a position to accomplish the reduction in the 25%, the import bill. And I feel like at this level, at this stage that we are at, especially coming out of the pandemic, many of the islands across the region, they have come to notice that we cannot survive without agriculture. We cannot survive if we don't have food, and we cannot survive if we don't have water. And so emphasis must be placed on this specific ministry and this sector on a whole.
And Minister, of course, you are the one who take charge, who leads the ministry in these regards. So the 25 by 25 is something that the government has wholeheartedly embraced.
Correct.
Talk to us a bit about how serious this initiative in terms of government and putting policies, strategies, initiatives in place to really drive down the food security bill.
Well, as indicated by Ms. Flanders, this is a CARICOM agenda that was set some years ago. And last year, I came in as a new minister, and immediately, actually 3 days after I was sworn in, I was exposed to this agenda, and I adopted it, and I made it a thing in St. Kitts Nevis. And now we have been driving that effort wholeheartedly. What we have been doing as far as making sure that our people are ready, we've gone from a policy level, and we've been introducing new bills to the Parliament. We've also taken it from an infrastructure level, like we just procured 2 new tractors, because one of the things that we recognize in terms of mechanization, that the country severely lacked a number of the machinery to adequately prepare and put our people in a place to be more food secure. So we increased that fleet by 2 more tractors that should be landing anytime now after being procured. We also recognize that the world is moving in a direction that we ought to, based on our land size, based on the fact that climate change is affecting all of us. And so we conceptualize what we call the greenhouse villages. I'm happy to note that on Friday of this week, which is Friday, we're going to be breaking ground for that. We also recognize, as a theme indicate, water is food, water is life, leave no one behind, that we must be very responsible in our use of water. We've recognized extended drought periods worse than we've ever seen in this year and last year. And we recognize that there's a need for us to be responsible with our use of water. And as a ministry and as a minister, I want to showcase our efforts in terms of observing our responsibility. And we launched this year our drip program, which we'll talk more about.
Right, we'll talk about that a bit later, Minister, and something that is very important, because hearing this theme, I would think that it really was World Water Day as opposed to, World Food Day. So that is something that the international community recognizes, the importance of the linkages between the two of them. Okay, so Ms. Flanders, you mentioned that there are a number of activities that are held every year. How are these activities determined?
Okay, so we usually meet as a group, and a committee has been formed, of course, to head the week of activities. And we sat down as a team and we decided that our activities should reflect the theme, of course, that was decided by the international body, that is the United Nations, FAO. So we, of course, decided that the first activity we wanted the public to partake in was the Hydration Monday. And of course, Hydration Monday gave us the opportunity as staff and the public as well to show us how they stay hydrated. I thought it was a very cute initiative. We had members of the public as well as staff at the Department of Marine Resources, staff at the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Cooperatives who snapped photos of themselves, and of course they shared it with us, and it was titled #Hydration Monday. And we also had the director, Miss Jeanelle Kelly, visiting the schools. She went to the Tyrrell Williams Primary School and the St. Peter's Daycare Center on Monday, and they presented gardening tools and spoke with the students about the Hydration Monday that we were celebrating, as well as the importance of renovating their gardens. Yeah, so I mean, we started off with the Hydration Monday and the gardening renovation, but we moved on to the visits to the schools at the ICCS, the Immaculate Conception Catholic School as well. On Tuesday, we were able to speak with the students about the importance of World Food Day and how we want them to become, we call them our little farmers and fishers of the future, but we also gave them the opportunity to explain and let us know what their career paths would be, and we gave them the opportunity to highlight the things that they feel we should be doing, of course, as a ministry, to have them more involved, to get them more involved. Another thing that we pointed out to the students was actually the fact that right now, water being a very vital resource is scarce, not just in the region, but globally. Water is scarce. Like the minister mentioned before, we're not getting the rainfall that we've been so accustomed to getting. This is very serious. Drought season, we're losing the produce. And of course, when you're losing produce, it means that you're losing money. If you're losing money, it means then you have a serious problem. And we explained to the children, who were so intelligent, they understood immediately what it meant to conserve, to preserve the water that we so desperately need. And they also suggested that we need more wells. I was really shocked.
But as we speak about engagement with persons in the public, and especially young persons, the question, Minister, I'll come to you with this one as well too, because of course I guess you still are, although you're Minister of Government, you are a farmer.
Yes.
So do you find that the young people, that they want to go up to be farmers and fishers, do they have that ambition, or do they want to pursue other courses?
Well, you know, what I've found is that children will grow up to be what we project on them as important. When we were growing up, we were taught that being a doctor or a lawyer was what was significant. And by all means, yeah, significant career fields. I think right now the world recognizes the importance of food. And like I say, I'm a minister of a number of ministries. But when it comes to agriculture, I say we can live without a lot of things, but we cannot live without food. And so that speaks to its significance. And what I'm finding now with the conversation changing and becoming more favorable to the industry, young persons are now looking at it as a viable means of a career choice. When we look at the 25 by 25 agenda, I think that would bring a whole new light, because let's look at it. We are saying a food import bill of $197 million. We want to reserve 25% of that in the country. If you do a rough estimate, around it at $200,000, $200 million, right. Sorry, that food bill of 25% is $50 million. Now, if you have a market, an agricultural local market of $50 million that farmers could partake in, then you have a significant market and a significant career opportunity.
So that money is reinvested into the people?
Correct. What that is saying, that somewhere along the line, some farmer, fisher, or agro producer will share in that $50 million. That's really what we say.
And so, Ms. Flanders, the key takeaways from the engagement with the young people, what were the feedback? You already shared that they spoke about, getting new wells. What would you say is the feedback overall? And is this something that you see that they're passing on when they go home?
To be honest, I think I would have to discuss more with the Ministry of Education to find out how the students actually converse when we're not there, because of course when you're there it's something different. But I know children, and I know that they would have their own little discussions among themselves, among their peers and their teachers as well. So it would be good if we could, of course, have a closer relationship with the Ministry of Education to kind of get more of that feedback, because in that moment it gave us the opportunity to learn more about the way they think, the way how they process information, and you'd be very surprised the things that you think they don't understand, they actually have answers to many of the problems. So I was really happy with the response that we got from those students. We had our extension officers venturing even down to the schools in the rural areas. Charles E. Mills Secondary School was one of the schools that we attended, and the Virchild High School as well, Keon High School included, Washington Archibald High School, and the Bastia High School. So the feedback that we got, I would say generally, was that the children are interested. They are very intrigued by the fact that today or tomorrow we may not be able to eat the fruit that they so love, because we import majority of the food that comes in, and the goal is to reduce the food import bill by 25%, and so they're eager to learn how they can actually contribute to excelling and achieving that goal. So they're definitely, they want to be involved. They want to know more about it. So I think it's time that we include them more in the conversation and give them the opportunity to speak, to express themselves, and of course to pitch ideas.
And in addition to that, of course, hearing is one thing, but then being active is certainly another. And I know that there was an engagement where some gardening tools were presented to the school. I believe Tyrrell Williams is one of them. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes. So the gardening tools, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we distributed to the students at the Tyrrell Williams Primary School and as well as the St. Peter's Daycare Center. And of course, the little tiny tots, they're too small to really get that, you know, this is the reason why we want you to do this. But they did get the idea that the gardening is something that should be a staple. It's something that we expect them to do when they're home with their parents. And of course, the students at the Tyrrell Williams Primary School, they seem to know a whole lot more about agriculture than I thought. So kudos to the principal and the teachers there at the Tyrrell Williams Primary School, because the students were very much engaged and they had a very clear understanding of the importance of gardening and, in a nutshell, producing the food that you eat or the food that you want to eat.
And with climate change, there is a risk, a very serious risk of some of the foods, as you mentioned, that have been imported. But there are some local foods that's also under threat, that they can be lost to extinction because of climate change, because the weather conditions will be no longer able to sustain the growth of such. We've already seen the mango season was a bit shorter, much to my dismay. My tree bared for like 2 weeks and it stopped. Never happened before.
Oh my goodness.
That I can recall during my lifetime. And so those are the type of very real circumstances, Minister, that the ministry has to tackle and confront. Not that you can reverse climate change. Certainly St. Kitts and Nevis can't do it on its own. And there are some global initiatives that are being proposed to try to slow it down and hopefully eventually reverse. But these are the type of things that you have to grapple with. I'm sure that they somewhat keep you up at night.
Well, you know, Ian, as we look at the effects of climate change, we have to plan and we have to put measures in place to ensure that we can mitigate and excel beyond its effects. And so again, when we talk about our greenhouse villages per se, we recognize that a number of fruits can be grown in houses, and it helps to protect us from some of the effects of climate change. And so let's take your favorite mango. Instead of maybe growing a 30-foot tree, we may have to opt to grow 12-foot trees in greenhouses. And then you could enjoy a mango during the mango season while climate change takes its ravaging effects on the rest of the land. But these are the things that we really have to confront, that tough decisions have to be made now in terms of making sure we have a very viable way forward for the future.
And monies have to be invested in that, of course.
And that's what we are doing. We are investing now to protect the future.
Now, you spoke about the greenhouse village earlier, and it's also that when you appeared on the program, I believe it was in August, that you mentioned as well too. And I saw a clipping in the newspaper that indicated that there's a tendering process being there. Update us on what the process is for greenhouse in the meantime.
Yes, and so like I said, on Friday, we are having the ground turning ceremony. We opted.
Where's that?
And that is going to be in the Whitegate area. We launched this back in July, but then we opted not to do any construction in the middle of the hurricane season for obvious reasons. And so now that we're on the tail end of the hurricane season, we want to start the process. And so now, while the hurricane season is withering away, we want to do our ground turning ceremony. We do have a number of greenhouses that's already been on island, and the erection process will start. And so from Friday onward, we could see the establishment of the first greenhouse village. Now, that's one of many. We want to decorate our landscape with these villages because we're serious about food security. And ultimately, I would like at the end of 2024 into 2025, we see upward of 100 greenhouses in full operation across St. Kitts and Nevis. this for me would represent success. Because when we do the math, the contribution we expect from greenhouse production will be significant to help drive our 25 by 25 agenda. Of course, that's not the only thing. We are looking at our fisheries sector. And I had an excellent meeting with one of our fisher corps just today. And as we talk about water, we, as the term now refers to us, are large ocean states, where our water space is significantly more than our land space. And so our fishers have a huge role to play. And I was talking to them on what we are doing from a ministry level and what is also expected of them as corps and as fishermen, to be responsible in managing the ecosystems, and also to look forward to ensuring that our people have fresh fish, healthy fish to eat, and have better access when we talk about food security.
And in terms of the greenhouse villages, of course, that would be work, employment for persons locally here to get involved with.
So we're talking about employment, we're talking about water conservation, sticking to the theme, because it is known that practices like hydroponics and drip irrigation use significantly less water than traditional farming. And so as we talk about being responsible users of a precious resource, these are the efforts being made to ensure that we show that level of responsibility. But of course, we're talking about employment, water conservation, increased productivity of food. We're talking about equality, because greenhouse farming is a little easier. So some persons with disabilities now have a chance to be actively involved in production. Women, the elderly, children, all now have a chance to be actively involved. But this is the vision, an all of society approach to make sure that when we see 2025 December, we can look back and say, job well done.
Minister, stand by, Ms. Landers as well. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more of our discussion. And we want to focus more so on the theme of World Food Day and how it fits into the local context. We'll be right back with more in Focus. Welcome back to InFocus. We continue our discussion with the Minister of Agriculture, the Honourable Samal Duggins, and Sherry Flanders, communication leaders within the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, those who are looking at us online or on ZIZ Television Live would have seen a graphic where it indicated that the global demand for water for agriculture will increase by 35% by 2050. Now, the thing about it is, the ironic part is that there's less water, because there is less rainfall due to climate change. And so, as we established earlier, World Food Day, the theme is water is life, water is food, leave no one behind. So how does this theme, Minister, fit into the local context in terms of what the government is trying to do here in terms of boosting the food production, but also ensuring that water is still available for the other industries? Talk to us about getting the water to the agriculturalists and the fishers.
And that's an interesting question, Ian, and even the context in which it was framed. I'm not sure if there is actually less water. There's less water available in the traditional sense of how we've harvested water. Because we've traditionally, in St. Kitts and Nevis in particular, would have been used to capturing the runoff water from our streams. And initially we would have taken water from a number of wells. Those wells that we have been utilizing have produced less water for us. But we have vast ocean space around us. And so the conversation now has been moving toward desal. And so it's really a change in approach and a change in perspective. And with desalination, we can increase the water supply again. I know they have been digging new wells, such as the one in Keon, which is expected to produce somewhere upward of, I think it was
750,000 to 1 million gallons per day.
Per day. Again, that will increase significantly our water supply. But let's go into agriculture a little bit. You see, the access to water has certain complications. If you're looking at the domestic water supply, you're talking about vast villages, and so the demand for that water has to be significant. When you're talking about farms, sometimes you could go with less. And so while there are wells that have been tapped into before that just did not meet the domestic supply requirement, we have been recognizing that we could use them for agriculture. So there's a project ongoing as a part of the DRIP project, because our commitment is to have water on every farm. And so as a part of that project, the ministry is collaborating with the Department of Water in terms of how can we access some of these wells for agriculture and make sure that our farmers have adequate water supply. So it's not just about what happens to the water when it gets to the farm with the drip irrigation, the water tank for storage, the ground cover for retention. We are also talking about how do we get water to the farm so that we could utilize it effectively.
Ms. Flanders, talk to us a bit about how the department or the ministry collaborates with the Water Services Department, if there's any at all, in terms of getting the messages out and ensuring that the water is properly utilized.
Okay, so that is something that we have actually considered. We actually invited the water engineer not too long ago to one of our stakeholder meetings. We had several consultations with our farmers and our fishers, and of course the first instance was with the farmers back in December. And in that discussion, the water engineer, I'm sorry, I'm missing his name right now. I hope he doesn't crucify me.
Cromwell Williams.
Yes, of course. So he visited and he spoke briefly with the farmers, and he explained to them that this isn't just something that is affecting us locally. This is something that, of course, the United Nations spoke about in 2021, going as far back as then. St. Kitts and Nevis, along with many of the other Caribbean countries, were deemed water scarce. And that is not just because we're not just getting the rainfall, but it's also because we're not conserving the water that we do have, right? One of the things that he also mentioned to the farmers was the battle, of course. Everyone wants water in their household. And just the same way that you want water to bathe with and you want the water to cook your food is the same way that farmers want water to water their crops. And so we have to find a balance, and we have to make sure that that balance does not affect the households. At the same time, we are making sure that water is provided to our food producers. Water is something that you need in the schools. If you don't have water in school, it means children have to go home. If you don't have water in your businesses, it means then that's it for you for the day. So finding that balance between the water that is deemed scarce already in St. Kitts and Nevis, between our businesses, our stakeholders, our farmers, our fishers, of course, as well. The household is very much important. So I use this opportunity to, of course, on behalf of the Minister and the Permanent Secretary, see how we could engage further with the Water Services Department and have more discussions, because, of course, as he mentioned, we do have plans that are on the way, and so hopefully by the end of this year, you'll start seeing more of those updates.
Minister, and your colleague, your cabinet colleague, the Honorable Congress Maynard, who is responsible for water, he was on InFocus last week, and so he would have shared a bit of information in terms of what the government is doing to help to mitigate some of the water challenges that we are having. And so have you had that conversation with him yet in terms of, like, for instance, let's take the desal plant, you know, what percentage of the water is going to be increased, is going to be available now, and so that you may be able to project and to plan, okay, then the water will be channeled to this particular area which may be more involved in agriculture, and help them to really get a better boost in terms of increasing their production because of the lack of rainfall that we're experiencing.
Yes, we've had these discussions, and like I said, we've had discussions, both ministries and the technical officers, so the PS&I would have met with Mr. Williams and others to discuss intently how do we share the water supply. Because as much as we recognize our food producers need it for food production, we are also members of families, and we need it for homes.
And it's also important in agro-processing as well.
Of
There
course.
you go. And we are also a part of a commercial environment, and they need it in businesses. And so we have to be mindful of all of that. But what we have been discussing, as we improve desal, and we take the strain off of some of our wells and our rivers, like I said, we could divert some of that natural groundwater as well as underground water into agriculture. And so we've been looking at what are the feasible wells that we can direct and divert into agriculture. What rivers that are running now that we could stem and send into agricultural production, because that water is generally better for agriculture anyway. And so we've been having this discussion, yes. It's just a matter now of trying to get past the immediate challenge, because it is a real challenge that really hit us over the last 2 years, where the rainfall is just significantly less than anyone imagined. That no one could prepare for. But we are not looking at it and being lost. We are actively tackling the problem. And again, we've seen efforts in improving desal, digging new wells. And I believe agriculture will see that impact coming through the next couple of months into 2024 and definitely into 2025.
Right. Okay. And you refer to the DRIP program, which is a drought resiliency program. Give us an update where we are on this.
Yes, and so we had proposed a project to Cabinet where we wanted to improve our use of water across our farms. And so we thought about the idea of water on farms holistically. Because you see, it's not just about having water. It is also about how you use it and how you preserve its presence. And so just to give you a synopsis of how the DRIP program, theoretically was conceptualized. Water harvesting is one part, and storage. So then the provision of water tanks. Then you want to use that economically. And we thought about drip irrigation and fittings. So that way the water could be used exactly where we need it, in the dosage that we need it. But then after some time, the sun evaporates water. So we thought about the ground covering, which would then retain the moisture in the soil, which means you have to use less water because less would have evaporated. And so we recognize that if you put all measures in place together, your water use is significantly reduced, while production is significantly improved. And that's a win-win. But then we also recognize that's an oasis that you're creating. And in our context, we have the beloved monkeys and feral animals, other feral animals, that have been damaging our crops. And so part of the program, we are also looking to fence these farms in protection of these feral animals. And so it's a very comprehensive program that we are bringing to our people. And I'm pleased to note that on Thursday, our first tranche of supplies will be delivered to our people, and then we will roll out accordingly from there.
Okay, and what would be included in those supplies?
Again, from water tanks, fencing, ground cover, drip irrigation, fittings, the likes.
Right.
Barbed wires, protection from the monkey, electric wire to protect from the monkeys. So we really want to ensure that we protect our farmers and give them what they need to grow sustainably and produce a lot more food to meet our 2025 agenda.
Right. And Minister, as we speak about increasing food production, of course, the Department of Agriculture and the Ministry of Agriculture have really been working together in terms of highlighting and rewarding farmers and fishers who have been doing their part in search. And so it leads us back to one of the activities that are taking place for World Food Day now. It was on October 16th. I should initially mention that. But
Yes.
the activities run throughout the week.
Yes, we are having
And
an entire week of activity.
An entire
Right,
week.
and certainly that would speak to the significance of the sector, of course, here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, Ms. Flanders, I know one of them, as we speak about the production of persons involved in producing from the sea, the fishers, so to speak, is that there is there's an initiative with diamondback squid.
Yes.
And that is going to be highlighted specifically on the agri-night market, which actually, for those who are listening to this live, to the initial debut of the show, it is on Wednesday, so that'll be tonight. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so the World Food Day themed Agri Night Market is this evening from 5 p.m. and it runs until 10 p.m. at the Bastia Public Market. And this is one of my favorite initiatives. You got me excited, Ian. This particular night market is different than all of the others that we have hosted throughout the year because we will be featuring the diamondback squid. Now, the diamondback squid, of course, is not something that most persons go to the fisheries to purchase. Right? We know that persons usually go and they call for the yellow-tailed snapper, or like me. Sometimes I like to go and I like to ask for the one particular squirrelfish that they have. You know what we call squirrelfish, Ian?
I have to confess.
Minister, you want to tell him what we... Listen, let me tell you, the jacks that they have, the yellow-tail snapper that they have, the yellowfin tuna, definitely some of my favorites. But of course, the Department of Marine Resources is using this opportunity to highlight our underutilized species. And so the diamondback squid was identified as one of those things that we can actually use for food. The diamondback squid was, of course, captured over the weekend, and just, I think, 2 days ago, we had members from the Extension Services Division toiling tirelessly. And when I say tirelessly, I mean they were out on the water for hours trying to make sure that they can get some diamondback squid for the public to see at the public market this evening, and of course to taste. The diamondback squid processing workshop that was held yesterday gave the technical staff the opportunity to learn how to clean the diamondback squid and how to get that particular fish ready for, of course, distribution. So we want to also include the diamondback squid in the products that we sell, at the value-added products, that is, at the fisheries, not just in Bastia, but also in Old Road as well. The diamondback squid, let me tell you, that is a particular fishery that can take the form of any type of food. I learned recently that the diamondback squid is going to be transformed into, you know how we have fish balls? The diamondback squid is going to be diamondback squid balls. I can see your face. I know, Ian, you've probably never had it before and you look very surprised. But yes, the same way that you also have fish balls and meatballs, the same way the diamondback squid can be transformed into balls. And also, we're going to have a tasting at the night market for those persons who've never had diamond squid burgers. It can also be transformed into patties. Look at Ian's face.
Well,
I know that one caught you off guard, but yes.
I suppose it's something that would encourage persons to come out for tonight.
I'm definitely inviting all persons. If you've never tasted it before, don't knock it until you try it. This is something that we are going to encourage, not just today, but throughout the rest of the year. We want persons to understand the importance of using and taking advantage of the food that we seem to just discard of. And we want to make sure that you know we don't just ask you to come to just taste the food that we go out and catch. We want you to also learn how to catch the food yourself. And this initiative is going to be led by the head of the Extension Services, that is Mr. Karim. Karim, I can't remember your last name, so please pardon me, but Karim is working with the Extension staff to make sure that they learn the methods, the techniques, to catch the diamondback squid, as well as the lobster and any of the other seafood that we usually have available at the night market event.
Minister, you would have learned a bit more about the diamondback squid. I believe there was a recent engagement that you were involved with. What's your impression there? Well,
you know, I'm used to having calamari, yes, but the diamondback squid itself, I've never really had that. And so I had a chance to visit the fisheries for the trading and see how they clean the squid, see the different parts of the squid. I had a chance to handle it myself in preparation, and I'm looking forward to trying the end result after it's fully prepared. The burgers, the balls, the, you know, yes.
Okay. And as we refer to, the important work that the fishers and the farmers are doing, there's a recognition ceremony that takes place on Thursday for them, the prize giving ceremony.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so on Thursday we have for many of you who would have heard last year, it was our Food Heroes prize giving ceremony. It is the exact same thing, so please don't think that we've excluded that particular ceremony. Our Farmers and Fishers Awards ceremony is the same ceremony, and we're hosting it on Thursday, and this year we are going to host it at the Kuna Caribbean Conference Center. That event starts at 5 p.m. and of course we use this opportunity to thank, to acknowledge, recognize, give praise to whatever you deem it, to our food producers, not just our farmers and our fishers, but also our cooperative groups as well, because they're very important and they host a number of activities all throughout the year to highlight the importance of agriculture in this country. And we are also going to be giving them their flowers during that ceremony. So the crop farmer of the year, the livestock farmer of the year, the fisher of the year, the cooperative society of the year, all of those particular categories, we look forward to actually placing a name to those titles tomorrow and giving them the recognition that they so deserve.
Get your flowers while you're still alive.
I'm telling you.
Correct.
And Minister, of course, you would have traveled, as we established in the opening, to Louisiana recently, where there were a number of engagements that you were involved with. And one of the things, of course, is that you often make it publicly known that you're traveling, you're out doing the government business.
Of course.
We want to talk a bit more about that engagement in Louisiana, but we're going to take a quick break first and we'll discuss that.
All right.
We'll be right back with more in Focus.
If you haven't done it as yet, please do it today. Subscribe to our YouTube page at SKNIS Media for regular updates, live coverage, and even more information on your government. While you're at it, like, share, and interact with our Facebook and Instagram pages at SKNIS Media and SKNIS Info.
Welcome back to InFocus. We continue to look at agriculture and World Food Day here on today's edition, and we're joined by the Minister responsible for agriculture, the Honorable Samal Duggins, and Shayo Flanders, who is the lead communications within the Ministry of Agriculture. So, Minister, as we established before we took the break, of course, there is an engagement that you participated in Louisiana, and of course, most persons would have heard about the educational benefits, the relationship that was established between Southern University and St. Kitts and Nevis. Certainly very exciting news. But there also was some agricultural components associated with the visit. Tell us first about that and the link between agriculture and Southern University that you were able to explore while you were there.
Yes, and so we visited Southern University, and we had a few days to explore the university and all that it offers. What I would like to say about it is the public is very much aware of what happened in terms of the MOU signing for the educational piece. Now, in extension to that, Southern University really established itself initially as an agricultural school. And as such, we wanted to explore what they offer in the field of agriculture. I am happy to note that we were able to receive scholarships from the university, and I know a number of our locals are already being processed into Southern University as we speak to explore master and doctorate programs.
So you're speaking about scholarships in terms of relation to specifically to agriculture?
To agriculture, yes. And a number of our students are being processed as we speak based on that trip and what we got from that trip. But beyond that, the technical expertise of the university has been extended, and I'm also happy to note that in the upcoming months, an entire delegation from the university will be visiting St. Kitts and Nevis to further expand on that agricultural piece and fully establish a working relationship between the country and the university. I want to also go beyond that because I'm also the minister responsible for the rollout and development of the cannabis industry. Southern University is one of two holders of medical cannabis licenses in the state of Louisiana. And so at that point, They are one of the lead developers of medical cannabis and one of the leaders in that industry in the US. And we had a lot that we learned from them. And again, they are coming to St. Kitts and Nevis to help fully establish the way forward that we can take in the medical cannabis area.
Minister, let me just jump back a bit to in terms of the scholarships that you mentioned, that there are a number of persons who are being considered. How are those persons chosen? Or is it something that they had to apply for? And can we expect to see more scholarship opportunities as we go along?
Yes, it was an application process. And for right now, in terms of agriculture, the scholarships are unlimited. So if you're interested, apply. And the scholarships are unlimited.
Ms. Flanders, that's where you come in, being able to ensure that the public is aware of these scholarship opportunities.
Most definitely.
Right. Okay. And Minister, you also toured, as we spoke about agro-processing as well too.
Yes.
Now, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but I think it's the McIlhenny Company.
Correct.
Now, the McIlhenny Company, if I'm going to see here, is the owner and the manufacturer of Tabasco brand foods.
That's right.
Tell us about that engagement.
Yes, actually we had a chance to tour that company. It was an exciting tour from an agro production standpoint, and we learned a great deal from being on that tour. We were able to have the president of the company actually do the tour, which was significant because this is a multi-billion-dollar company. And to have the president of a multi-billion-dollar company take the time out to give you a tour, you understand how significant that was. But what I would like to say is that it showcases opportunities for our country. And also, as it relates to agriculture and agro-processing techniques and development of products, we've learned a lot about that. I also had the permanent secretary along with me, and also an agricultural officer who hails from Nevis. And so we were able to look into this production, their standards, quality checks, more intently. But there's another area. The Tabasco company supplies pepper sauce worldwide, and they're always looking for new sources of pepper. St. Kitts and Nevis has the ideal climate to grow. And so we've been discussing what possibilities to connect both territories, both the country of St. Kitts and Nevis to the company. And these are the things that we try to do. When you travel, you try to make these connections. And hopefully, sometime in the future, we can become a pepper supplier to the company. These are the ideas.
That's also very important, Minister, because you're also responsible for small business development.
That's right.
And I recall having on InFocus a few weeks ago, a team from the small business development company, I think, this is right. And so they were here and they spoke about finding ways to support persons who are interested in getting into agro-processing.
Yes.
Now, of course, they're looking at it from a financial part of it too.
Correct.
And there were some also in some ideas that they were throwing around in terms of being able to possibly make those linkages. So here, we see that that is coming to fruition.
That's right. And this is the idea. And so, in my position as a policymaker and the driver of these ministries and having significant industries, I have to ensure that we look beyond the shores of our 68 square miles to see what opportunities exist in the globe. Sometimes that means me leaving the 68 square miles and seeing these things firsthand, having these conversations, being in the room and being present. Like at CWA, I just returned from. I had to be present where all the ministers of agriculture from the region were present.
That's CARICOM.
Yes, correct. And now from the CARICOM region, you had the minister from Jamaica, you had the minister from Trinidad and Tobago, you had the minister from St. Vincent and St. Lucia, you had the minister from even Anguilla. And I remember and the minister from Anguilla in a conversation feeling proud of, the mention where the minister from Jamaica stood up and mentioned in the room about our drought resilience irrigation project, that Jamaica will be adopting that project because it's so forward thinking. And so when you have these moments where countries like Jamaica could look to a smaller country like St. Kitts and say, we see what you're doing and we want to adopt that project. then you must feel proud. And it wasn't even just a moment for us. Anguilla felt proud to see that. And that was a conversation that the minister brought to me, how proud she felt when she heard that.
And that also speaks to the importance of networking with regional colleagues, understanding what is happening in each other's country, of course, adapting best practicing,
That's
and
right.
being able to see where, there can be some transfer of skills, transfer of knowledge, perhaps even investment opportunities.
And this is the whole idea, because we can't do it all here on our island. We have to integrate ourselves into the CARICOM space, into the wider hemisphere space, because again, IECA has been doing a lot of work integrated, and in CELAC, which is the Caribbean and Latin America. And so all of these different areas, we have to go and give representation. Otherwise, if you're not at the table, you don't know. And sometimes as I look back and hear the conversations about ministers traveling, and I look back at the state of agriculture, and look back at the fact that some of our ministers did not take the opportunity to travel, then there could be some correlation with the deplorable state of agriculture and the lack of traveling. And so I am happy to be at the table and give representation for our country, learn from these other ministers, and share with them as well best practices.
Now, that engagement in Bahamas was the Caribbean Week of Agriculture, and it was held from the 9th to the 13th of October. What would you say, Minister, some of your key takeaways? Because I know the theme, it spoke about accelerating the vision 2025 by 2025, of course, the CARICOM vision that we've been discussing. But what would you say are some of the key takeaways from that engagement that you had?
Yes,
there?
it was an entire week. I must admit it was a grueling week. Each day we started 8, 9 in the morning and ended 8, 9 in the evening, usually with just a little lunch break. But there was a lot of information. And so one of the things I could say is the fact that the world has to embrace technology, and the region in particular, we have to embrace technology. Whether it is protected agriculture, optimizing production to the use of machinery, this is one fundamental focus. We also talk about water conservation, one from the aspect of identifying where we have proper resources of water, mapping our geographical landscape, utilizing that to channel and store water, using again technology to make sure that we are doing things in the best way possible. So we've discussed a lot of the use of technology, improvement in usage of the water resource, new and improved growing techniques. We spoke about fishing and fisheries and how we could map our fishing resource much better. Everything from seaweed, the use of sargassum, to moving away from the nearshore fisheries, which has been depleting our fish stock, into more pelagic and further out into our ocean space, where we have about 200 miles. And even just today in the discussion with the Bay Fishers Corp, they admit that they have only been using 20 to 30. That's just 10% of our entire ocean space. So it means we have 80% of our ocean space unutilized and unexplored. These are the conversations that we've been having, how to best utilize what we have to ensure that food security is a real aspect for our people.
And during that meeting, it wasn't just a matter of sitting down in a room, but Minister, there also was a practical aspect of it where you went out and you toured several farms.
Yes, we were able to go around and see what was happening in the Bahamas as far as their agro production. And I visited a number of farms, and I must say they have been embracing technology significantly. And I was impressed with some of their indoor farming operations. And I see St. Kitts and Nevis, we are moving in that direction as well. And so I saw the synergies, and I was able to take some of their best practices so I can now share with our farmers and make sure that we are on the right path. Because as I learned in a conversation with the president of Southern University, he said, experience is indeed the best teacher. But if you only learn from your experiences, you're a fool. And so I enjoy learning from other people's experiences to avoid their mistakes and make sure that we do it well. Do it once, do it right.
Especially with scarce resources, certainly
That's right.
very important.
Yes, that's true.
Minister, we're out of time essentially for this program, but I'll give you an opportunity to make a final comment, and then Flanders will come to you.
Yes, I really just want to say to our country that St. Kitts and Nevis is well poised to achieve its agenda in 25 by 25, and we are making significant strides. Yes, it is a challenge because we got on board late, only last year, when this was some 5 years in the making. We got on board last year alone, and we have accelerated our pace to getting there. We have a vision which we are sharing with the public over time. As we roll out, we have now positioned ourselves to launch our DRIP program, get that commission. We are doing our ground turning ceremony for our greenhouse villages, and we will continue the rollout. We are also looking at the area of fisheries and the area of agro-processing. And once we would have combined the livestock, the crop, the fisheries, the agro-processing all together, talking about access to finance, talking about access to market, talking about best practices, we will then create an ecosystem that our agricultural produce will see its best days probably that it has ever seen since maybe the 18th century.
I really should have given you the last word.
I know.
I'll come to you.
I don't understand how he wants me to close off after that.
I imagine it's because I know you're so passionate about the agri-night market,
yes,
and
course.
some of the other public activities that
most
the
definitely.
department is hosting. So I'll give you an opportunity to invite the public and let them know what else you may have wanted to say.
And of course, the reason why I think it would be best for me to end is because I want to remind the public that the night market is happening this evening. So for those of you who are trying to get your spot, if you are trying to register as a vendor, this may be your last opportunity to squeeze in and get a spot at the Bastia Public Market, at the Agri Night Market. That, of course, is being held as part of our World Food Day Week of Activities 2023. The Agri Night Market also features a watermelon eating contest. That was something that I didn't get to mention earlier, but it also features a watermelon eating contest and, of course, the diamondback squid. So come to the Agri Night Market. That is our World Food themed Agri Night Market, and that night market, I'm sure, is going to wow you. I've enjoyed all of the night markets that we have celebrated over the last few months, and I look forward to, of course, again, attending yet another edition of this event. Now, before I end off, Ian, I want to make sure that persons understand that this isn't just the hosting of an event every month. This particular event gives our agri-producers, our agripreneurs, our farmers, our fishers, our agro-processors the opportunity to showcase what it is they have to offer. And we are partnering as well with the Ministry of Entrepreneurship and Small Business. And it is through this collaboration that we've been able to successfully host the Agri Night Markets. So our small business vendors will also be present, and we can't wait to have the extra vendors that I was told registered last week. So we see an increase in the numbers. The vendors are very interested, and we look forward to working with them again and again and again. The last night market will be our Christmas night market for 2023, and so we look forward to hosting that too.
Is registration open now for that event?
Registration, I mean, of course, we want you to come and register your spots early, because we won't be having one in November, and we know persons definitely want to partake in the Christmas version of the night market. The numbers are usually significantly higher during December for obvious reasons. It's the Christmas version of the night market, and so if you do want to register and get those spots in early, this is the opportunity for you to do so this evening and as well during the Christmas season.
And of course, under this government, we've seen the increase in the number of night markets. Sheriff Flanders, thank you so much for joining us, Minister. It was a pleasure. We look forward to having you back again sometime, because of course, there is a layered chicken initiative that has been taking place with Taiwan that we would love to discuss a bit further in the future.
Indeed, I'm always available. Phone call away.
Right. Okay. So thank you both again,
Yes.
and thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us for this edition of InFocus. I'm Ian Richards. Be sure to join us next week at the same place at the same time.
Join us every Wednesday for InFocus, a weekly talk show produced by the SKNIS Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. InFocus, your government, your business.